Shalom, fam. Welcome to the Tents of Judah, where we prescribe and we focus on improving the understanding of the 1611 King James Holy Bible and the relevant content of the covenant of the 12 tribes of Israel and how the Bible ties to that in the proof of what it actually is. So today I wanted to bring up a subject for my Israelite brothers and family so that we can get to the bottom line of the understanding of this particular point or law, or whether it's a law or not. And that particular law is, that particular law is Deuteronomy, 23rd chapter, in the 7th verse, where it's stated that thou shalt not abhor an Edomite. And what that exactly means. Now let me read the verse in its actual context and from the King James that I have. Thou shalt, Deuteronomy 23rd chapter, 7th verse. Thou shalt not abhor an Edomite, for he is thy brother. Thou shalt not abhor an Egyptian, because thou wast a stranger in his land. So I wanted to read that in context because it has components that have to be broken down in order to put everything into context about why the Most High, after he told you that the elder shall eventually serve the younger, in the context in Genesis where it was brought up that the elder brother, who was Esau, whose name was changed to Edom, would eventually end up serving Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel. So let's keep that in mind when we're moving about to break down whether or not the Most High knew that the Edomites would be doing today what they would be doing, or if he created them to do what they will be doing, or allowed them to do what they are doing, if you will, once we break down who they are today. So I wanted to point that out because right now where I am with the understanding, if another brother is more eloquent, in breaking down the scriptures than what has been accepted by, myself and the understanding of the others who have taught me, that will be accepted. But it will be challenged to get to that point. So let's keep this dialogue open and let's get the brothers to come in with their different angles and point. But we wanted to start, though, I want you to come with your precepts, and I want you to prove to me or prove to my audience that Deuteronomy, the 23rd chapter and the 7th verse, is or is not an actual law that we are required to follow in combination with all the events in between then and Revelations that we're currently undergoing. So I ask that we start there, and I'm going to give an angle or a contextual understanding and precepts, if you will, to verify why it is believed, understood, and at this moment relished that that is an actual law. And we're going to discuss some probably not thought of angles to look at it that way. So here we go. Now let's go to Genesis, the 25th chapter. I want to start here to establishing and confirming for some of the new to our new brothers and sisters who are just getting into the King James and potentially understanding the covenant and who those people are. But let's go to Genesis, the 25th chapter and the 23rd verse. And it reads as follows. And the Lord said unto her, the mother, two nations are in thy womb, and two manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. And the one people shall be stronger than the other. One of the twins will end up being stronger in totality than the other. And the elder shall serve the younger. Now, let's see. Elder means the one that came out first, and we're going to eventually get to that. Let's go to verse 24. And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, that means she's going into labor to deliver the twins, behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red, the elder, this was red, all over, like an hairy garment. And they called his name Esau. So let's stop real quickly there. Now that's the verse that confirms that Esau was the first, the elder. He came out first, and he was red. We'll get into it later, but I'm going to discuss at another video what that red really is, where I feel it really is. Let me put it that way. So now let's go to verse 26. And after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was 80 old when she bare them. So now we're clear on Esau came out first, red all over like an hairy garment. Jacob came out second. No description of character traits because he looked like the majority of the people in the community, if you will, at the time. Nothing unexpected about him, but there was something a little different about Esau. And we will get to the red and all that, those other characteristics at a particular point or another point. But I wanted to get that established because you can now see that what's being set up. And I wanted to bring out Genesis because Genesis is before Deuteronomy. And when you talk of the Tanakh, when you're talking of the 5 books that contain the majority of the laws, if you will, when what I feel, the Most High made that law in Deuteronomy 23:7, he knew, obviously, all of this information. So it was not like he didn't anticipate or know the demeanor of the nation of those men or those people and what they would eventually become and the triggers and the things that it would take for them to become what they are today. And this is where I want to make sure we get an understanding of or get it clear in regards to establishing why that law was put into place. And I do believe that it is actually a law. And I will wait to hear from any of the brothers who try to dispute that angle, and we will discuss that and, and go from that point forward. But I wanted to get to that point just to establish who Esau or Edom, whose name was changed to Edom, were, and Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel. So let's go next to this. Now, the next thing I want to point out, we're still in Genesis, the 25th chapter. Now, I want to go down to verse 27. I think I need to include 27 on this. We're going to now clear up where this birthright issue came in. And I want you to keep in mind that who can give this type of birthright. Make sure you don't lose that forethought of who actually has authority to give the blessings and the power that's in a particular birthright or the gifts that come with it, other than the one who has the authority and the power to do it. And we're going to go right now to verse 27. Genesis 25 and 27 reads, "And the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, and Jacob was a plain man dwelling in tents." Verse 28, "And Isaac loved Esau because he did eat of his venison, but Rebekah loved Jacob. And Jacob sod pottage, and Esau came in from the field, and he was faint." When it says sod pottage, that means he was cooking, getting it down, getting it in the kitchen there. And his brother Esau, whose name was changed to Edom, was out in the field doing normally. Those cats that are like that, they're always outside, going in the woods, doing something, hunting, whatever you want to add to it. The point of the matter is to establish their demeanor during this time. So one was in the house cooking what the groceries that was already there, and his brother had been outside all day. He became tired, had a tough day. Didn't really get to kill anything, but he came back in and wanting something to eat. That's what being faint was. He was tired but hungry at the same time. So let's go to verse 30, Genesis 25 and 30. "And Esau said to Jacob, Feed me. Man, I'm hungry. I'm paraphrasing this part of it. But verse 30 says, "And Esau said to Jacob, Feed me, I pray thee, with that same red pottage." Whatever he was cooking, it was pottage. So you do further research if that's not satisfactory to you, what exactly the pottage is. But I'll say that it is a vegetative stew, if you will, a pot stew with, just steamed and cooked vegetable. Imagine it how you want. But "for I am faint, therefore was his name called Edom." Now you're seeing why his name was changed from Esau to Edom, because he was like, man, give me some of that red pottage. I love that. And this is setting up what's going to eventually happen that will cause the conflict, if you will, between Edom, Esau, and Jacob, Israel. This is the beginning of the seed of the dispute and the anger of what we see today. And I'll talk about how it's described today. But just remember, they came from the same mother and father, if you will, but they were brothers. I wanted to clear that up. Now let's go verse 31. "And Jacob said," he's responding back to Esau or Edom now, "Sell me this day thy birthright." So now he's saying, if you want to eat out of my food that I've been in here cooking, you've been out there doing what you're doing, that's on your own. But you're going to eat what I've been working on, cooking up in here for this long, then sell me your birthright. Sell me. Exchange. All right? I give you food, you give me your birthright. Whatever dad's going to leave to you whenever he dies. That's what this is setting up, okay? So let's keep that in mind. Do not forget that point when you get to the points of the emotions that go in all these different directions that the scripture will actually bring up. And he said, verse 31, "And Jacob said, Sell me today, this day, thy birthright. And Esau said, Behold, I am at the point to die, and what profit, shall this birthright do to me?" So he's saying, what profit is it going to be? Man, I don't care about that birthright. I'm hungry now, boy. I'm about to die. I need something to eat. That's the demeanor in today's term that I can best describe to you how to kind of put around these words when you're reading them and hearing them. And verse 33, "And Jacob said, Swear to me this day. And he swore unto him, and he sold his birthright unto Jacob." So Jacob didn't hustle him out of it, didn't finesse him. he sold it in exchange for food or the moment food. There's no doubt he could have gone another day with, come on, man. He just was on that tip, right? So he didn't think much of what potentially he could get. This is what's going to establish Esau's demeanor. Now let's go to verse 34, the last verse in the chapter. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and pottage of lentils, beans, and he did eat and drink and rose up and went his way. He got up and left. Nothing else talked about. Thus Esau despised his birthright. That means it had no meaning to him. He didn't know what it was, but it had no meaning at that point in time. And the moral of the story: wait on what's for you. Um, don't sell your future for your present. So let's keep that in mind. So, but that's what I want to establish, and I think that's enough for you to understand the core of the relationships and where the birthright comes in and why the names were changed. Edom means lover of red pottage, and we will eventually get to the precept in the verse that reconfirms that from the other prophets after this point. So let's go to the another angle regarding Deuteronomy 23:7 and why this is actually a law and not just a verse that can be overturned. Now let's go to a precept or supporting verse in the Bible. Let's go to Hebrews in the New Testament, the book of Hebrews. Let's go chapter 12 and let's go to verse 16, and where we're getting to the meat of the preface of the rest of the chapter. That's getting to the portion that's explaining Esau's and Edom's position, Edomites, and what he actually gave up. So Hebrews 12 and verse 16 reads as follows: lest there be any fornicator or profane person as Esau, who for one morsel of meat sold his birthright. Verse 17, for ye know how that afterward, let me start that over. For ye know how that afterward, when he would have inherited the blessing, means he found out later on at a critical point that he would have inherited the blessing, he was rejected, for he found no place of repentance, though he sought it carefully with tears. What that is supporting with the later prophets who were reading the Torah and the stories that we're able to read today and got the understanding from their forefathers, that's basically saying once he found out that it was worth more than anything else could be worth, he wanted it back and he was crying for it, and he couldn't figure out how, couldn't accept how he lost it, even though he did all the activity to lose it. And that also will be visited in Hebrew, the exact moments that got to him losing that. And it's very pertinent here how all these things are in place, and you know that the Most High is guiding the activity based on what the motion of our movements and our intents are. So let's kind of touch that, go back to Genesis, where that particular point where he sought repentance, carefully with tears. And let's go to exactly what Hebrews 12 and 27 is pointing at. Now, let's keep in mind now, and we're going to progress in time because I want you on your own time to go and fill in all the singular verses and to get to the intricacies of the series of events. But just know this, that we're in Genesis and we're primarily between 25 and upwards of 28 chapters, rather, from chapter 25 through like 28, 29 to get the gist of those interactions that resulted from their birth to the birthright incident to Isaac becoming older, and then eventually the attitude and the demeanor and the mindset of the two brothers and how it triggered, and then you'll understand why the seeds of those two children are at abyss today, even though a lot of them don't understand why their emotions, why I don't know why I hate this dude or why I'm supposed to hate this person or people, but I do. And I don't know why I'm afraid or why they hate us and why they are supposed to hate us, but they do. You're going to find out that this is the seed of the biggest interaction between the biggest groups in the history of the planet, not population wise, but ultimately control and power wise in the history of the world. That's how I feel and believe after summating these verses. But let's go to Genesis, the 27th chapter. We're going to progress up until Isaac being a little older now. Verse 1, Genesis 27, verse 1. And it came to pass that when Isaac was old and his eyes were dim, so that he could not see, he called Esau, his eldest son, the elder shall serve the younger, and said unto him, my son. He said unto him, behold. And Esau responded unto him, behold, here am I. And he said, behold now, I am old. I know not the day of my death. Now therefore take, and I pray thee, thy weapons, thy quiver, and all the goals, all the things, and go get some venison. He's telling him to go out and kill and bring some back so he can eat. And bring me venison and make me savory meat that I may eat and bless thee before the Lord before my death. That's verse 7. What Isaac is telling him, I wanted to comprise it because it'll be 39,000 hours. But he compressed it, and basically he's told him to go get something to eat so we can eat. And I'm going to give you the blessing. That will be Genesis 27 and 7. Bring me venison and make me savory meat that I may eat and bless thee before the Lord before my death. Let me give you what I'm going to leave you before I die. That's what he's saying. So Esau obeyed and went out. So Esau's gone. He's going to be gone a good while, hours, half a day, whatever you want to call it. But it's going to be a minute that he'll be out before he actually gets the venison. And at this point, Rebecca is in the house. She heard the conversation. And what you're going to find out in this chapter, she told the other son, Jacob, who was the younger, to go and do a couple of things. And I want you to read that chapter so you'll see all the intricacies of what she told him to do. So that now, while the real Esau or Edom was out, Jacob could inherit the blessing by pretending to be him with the help of his mother, Rebecca, because that was her favorite, and she was going to make sure that he held up his portion of the selling of the birthright. Remember? So keep that in mind, but read it yourself. And now I'm comprising the story, and leave a comment if you think any type of way that anything is different than what I'm telling you after you read each and every verse. But the bottom line is that that's what happened. And when it went down and Jacob got the blessing and also got his own blessing that he was going to get anyway, he got both blessings. Esau's blessing, birthright that he was going to leave, and his blessing and birthright that his dad was going to leave to him as well. So just keep that in mind. I'm compressing the story again, but that's what it is. And then that's what it is. So when all of that happened, I wanted to skip forward after he got it to let you know when you remember Hebrews when he say he sought it even though he sought repentance and relief with tears. I'm going to show you where those tears came from that were spoken of and brought up in the book of Hebrews in chapter 12, 26, 27. All right, let's go to Genesis 27 and verse 35. And he said, thy brother, Esau is talking, came with subtlety and hath taken away thy blessing. Verse 36. And he said, is not he rightly named Jacob? For he had supplanted me these 2 times. He took away my birthright. And behold, now he hath taken away my blessing. And he said, Hast thou not reserved the blessing for me? At this point, Esau is saying, Man, you've given him my blessing and all my stuff. You don't have anything for me? Now let's go, verse 37. And Isaac answered and said unto Esau, Behold, I have made him thy Lord, and all his brethren have I given to him for servants, and with corn and wine have I sustained him. And what shall I do now unto thee, my son? He's saying, What can I do now? I done gave him the blessing, because the type of blessing it is, it's something that was passed from his father Abraham through Isaac to his son, and it's not a box with stuff in it. This is a words and a ritual and a blessing and a touching that promise passed through, and he gets marked as the chosen seeds, and can't do it twice. So that part is what was gone. And remember, the elders, that's why he told him, I've made him a Lord. I've made him the ruler of the earth. So all his seeds will be the ruler, unless we screwed it up, which eventually happened, and we're getting to that. But he's saying, I put that type of onus on him. So all of your seeds, you and all your seeds, will ultimately have to serve him. So the elder shall serve the younger. That's what happened with that particular blessing. So I want to show you too in verse 40. Um, let's go verse 40. Let's go 40, 30, 38. I want to pick up at 38. Excuse me for that break there. But and Esau said unto his father, Hast thou but one blessing, my father? You have one blessing for me? Bless me, even me also, man. Give me some too. Oh, my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. This is when Esau was crying. Uh, uh, Hebrews 12 and 17. This is when Esau was crying. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. Now, verse 39. And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, Behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth, and the dew of heaven from above. And by thy sword shalt thou live, and shalt serve thy brother. And it shall come to pass, when thou shalt have the dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck. And verse 41. And Esau hated Jacob because of this. He's filled with anger now, because of the blessing, wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, The days of mourning for my father are at hand. Then will I slay my brother Jacob. So it's at that point now. So all his children gonna get that energy. All Jacob's children gonna get that hate, so on and so forth. So this is the beginning of generations and nations hating another nation. Remember, the Most High said there are 2 nations in thy womb. So 2 manner of people. This group of people hates that group of people, whether they're brothers or not. Let's hit verse 42. And the words of Esau, her elder son, were told to Rebekah, and she sent and called Jacob, her younger son, and said unto him, Behold, thy brother Esau, as touching thee, doth comfort himself, proposing to kill thee. So she's saying, your brother over there tripping. He said he gonna kill you. So I want you to go. And she eventually sent him to her brother over in Laban, and want you to read the rest of that. I'm giving you enough for you to go in there and dig for yourself and break it down. And I wanted you to get to why you need to read it without me going verse for verse. It will take forever on this particular lesson. But just keep that in mind, that's what was starting that. So now that you know, so before we get back to breaking down Deuteronomy 23 and 7, thou shalt not abhor an Edomite. I wanted you to know that all this happened before the Most High told Moses, to write this down as a particular law. And I'm gonna tell you, right at this point, I knew the Most High knew that the Israelites at some point, that's why this covenant comes with curses. At some point, we were going to violate. He probably didn't know how or when, but he just knew that we probably would. So he had his thing set up to deliver on the curse in the event that the covenant was still valid, because the covenant comes with two sides, blessings and curses. Both of those things make up the entire covenant. It's not you're under the covenant and you're getting all the great things. No, it's you're under the covenant. And if you violate the preceding setup to get those great things, then these bad things are going to happen to you, which is what's in verse in the book of Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, and the really the whole chapter, blessings and curses, but the curses start at chapter 15, verse 15, excuse me, through verse 68. So keep that part in mind. So I wanted to establish the Esau Jacob relationship, and I think next what we need to do is to go back to what our modern day brothers and Israelites don't understand, how what our forefathers did that extended to us. And I want to show you proof that there's only two people that can touch the laws, that can change them, that can make a change to them. That is the Most High, who was the originator of the Mosaic covenant, which was established in Exodus, the 24th chapter, which it was sealed, rather, when they did the actual ceremony of sealing, and the Most High, and the Messiah, excuse me, which is Christ. Those are the only two people that can change it. So the only other things that prophets and disciples can do is to get the word out of what it is, with or without changes, right? And I have not seen where Christ changed those particular laws. I have seen where a couple of laws were changed, well, not changed, but adapted and done a different way, but still laws, like the sacrifice law, which a lot have alluded to. But here's the problem. What we have to keep in context is the 613 or so laws are required. And we have to, even though that covenant was broken, we have to rehearse the righteous acts. And that's in the book of that's one of the books, or in the book of Judges, excuse me, chapter 5 and 11. It talks of it in there. And what I wanted to do, I'm giving you things as much as I can in this brief video here to show you. And I'll read Judges 5 and 11 as it's written, that they are delivered from the noise of archers in the places of drawing water. There shall they rehearse the righteous acts of the Lord, even the righteous acts toward the inhabitants of his villages in Israel. Then shall the people of the Lord go down to the gates. So my point is, when they talk of that, we have to rehearse, keep doing as much to our, fully possible, capable ability. We have to do what was originally said that they were doing, because the covenant was broken. And we have to go into detail about what that meant in 2 Kings 17 and the the 16th verse, 2 Kings 17 and 16. This is where it goes into the covenant being taken away, certificate of divorce, and we'll pick up on that as well in Jeremiah 3, excuse me, in verse 8. But we need to understand those activities and why other things manifest the way that they do. So let's go 2 Kings 17, chapter verse 16. And they left all the commandments of the Lord their God and made them molten images, even to calves, and made a grove, and worshiped all the host of heaven, and served Baal or Baal. And they caused their sons and their daughters to pass through the fire, and used divination and enchantments, and sold themselves to do evil in the sight of the Lord, to provoke him to anger. He's saying it in that way. They broke the law, statutes, and commandments by frivolous worshiping. Therefore, the Lord was very angry with the house of Israel, or with Israel in general, and removed them out of his sight. There was none left but the tribe of Judah only. And we're going to get into why he left. He was mad with Judah, but he kept Judah because of the promise he made to David, and to create and keep the line of Judah so Christ would come in, as we say, for it's evident that he sprang out of Judah. We do know that Christ came from the line, the bloodline of Judah, the tribe of Judah. So I wanted you to hear that and know that 11 of the 12 tribes of Israel got pushed out right there in the certificate of divorce. And it was further affirmed when we go to Jeremiah, the 3rd chapter, and let's go with the 8th verse. I'll start there. And I saw, when for all the causes whereby backsliding Israel committed adultery, that means worship another God because you were married to the Most High under the covenant, I had put her away and given her a bill of divorce. Yet her treacherous sister Judah feared not, but went out and played the harlot also. And when it came to pass through the likeness of her whoredom that she defiled the land and committed adultery with stones and with stocks, the tribe of Judah was doing it as well. And yet for all this, her treacherous sister Judah hath not turned unto me with her whole heart, but vehemently, saith the Lord. And the Lord said unto me, the backsliding Israel has justified herself more than the treacherous Judah. Right here, he's saying both did it, but Israel went a few more steps beyond, just complete trig out. So let's go verse 12. Go and proclaim these words toward the north, and say, return thou backsliding Israel, saith the Lord, and I will not cause mine anger to fall upon you, for I am merciful, saith the Lord, and I will not keep anger forever. Let's go verse 13. Only acknowledge thine iniquity, that thou hast transgressed against the Lord thy God, and hast scattered thy ways to the strangers under every green tree, and ye have not obeyed my voice, saith the Lord. Verse 14. Turn, O backsliding children, saith the Lord, for I am married unto you, and I will take you, one of a city, two of a family, and I will bring you to Zion. I wanted you to hear that in the book of Jeremiah, where Baruch is the author, or the writer, he said, I'm married unto you. And the reason that makes a big point is because when we're dealing with the laws. So now we're about to deal with all the marriage laws that are brought up when the bride commits adultery. They apply to God and to Christ, and as well as to us. Those laws were given to us to follow because those were the holy laws. That's how you handle business under those certain circumstances, or any circumstances that are covered with the laws, which are basically all. And so I wanted you to hear that because a lot of people overlook that. And what they end up doing is they just try to glue the other pieces of the puzzle together without putting into to place that the covenant was taken away and confirmed divorce, but in Second Kings, 17th chapter, and it was also confirmed again in Jeremiah, the third chapter. So you go back and read into more and more detail and context, and you'll see that what happened. Now, keep into mind what a divorce means. That means you're no longer with that wife. And keep into mind what the laws mean. Deuteronomy 24, 1 Corinthians 7, Romans 7, um, that when you're labeled an adulterer, those things follow you until the husband dies, if the husband dies first. So you're an adulterer. If your husband lived 50 more years, you're not supposed to be remarried if that's why you got divorced. You committed adultery. And anybody that touches you under that guise, they still are committing adultery. So if that was the reason. So I want you to keep that in mind because there were over 740, almost 750 years from the time between Second Kings and the Messiah actually having to die on the cross or die the crucifix. We're not going to get into the cross angle because I have a couple of angles on what that actually meant. But if he had to die, then he became the husband because he died. He died in place of the Most High. That's what Romans 9 brings to you as pertaining to the adoption. That's why that word is brought up. Christ adopted the tribes of Israel, and so he took on the law. That's why they were dead to the law. The law that they were dead to was Deuteronomy 24, the marriage law, the explanation of it as well. And First Corinthians 7. And that's why Paul was speaking of that in the book of Romans in 7. There is no other reason that he would have brought up that you now can be married even to him who is raised from the dead. Because at the end of the day, once he was considered dead and he was, raised up again or raised up, now he had cleansed the sacrificial side of the actual law that the husband had to die. That's what freed up the Israelites to marry to Christ, who was given authority to reset the covenant, Hebrews 8 and Hebrews period, to reset the covenant and become the only mediator. Because in that group of Israelites in the house of Israel was also the house of Levi, who were given the appointment to be the high priest. They were the ones that were supposed to run the order of, keeping us under the covenant or keeping the processes that were required for repentance and all of those things. And they actually fell into breaking the law. So he took it from them and he replaced the high priest with Christ. That's who Christ ended up becoming. So with that being the case, um, that's where the order of Melchizedek keeps coming into focus because people think that that's something that they maybe not be clear on, but the order of Melchizedek deals directly with being placed as a prince, king, or high priest without the lineage being into play, without your father being one. So that's how I got passed from you as a prince. Now you become the king, so on and so forth. The Most High skips over that because Christ, our earthly father, was not a high priest and he was not a king or a realm. He was in the line of David the king, but that was not his father. So keep that in mind. What Melchizedek infers to is that the Most High can go around all of that and make you what he wants to make you. And he made Christ the high priest. And that's why you don't have any information on Melchizedek other than the king of Salem. But that's still not information. You don't know his father, none of that. So that was the point of it. When Christ did that, to Melchizedek to take care of the business with Abraham, and he also did it for Christ. So keep that in mind. So where we are now, I wanted to read to you Romans 7 so I can give you a clearer picture of why Paul was talking the way that he did when he was speaking in the New Testament. A lot of people think, Paul was talking. No, 750 years, nobody was under the covenant. Well, at least those tribes were not under the covenant. 11 of the 12, they were not under the covenant. And he had to go explain to them and refresh them again for so long that the covenant has been renewed with Christ getting everything together, and he ultimately paid that ultimate sacrifice of dying in place of the husband who gave the certificate of divorce. Because I just read to you in Jeremiah that God was the husband of the Mosaic covenant. He was the husband. So when God gonna die? He can't die because nobody is powerful enough to bring him back and then have him back into whoever bring him back has more power than him. So that's not going to happen. So that's why we had to go through these steps to have a official blood sacrifice in Christ to bring about the original covenant. And we already know that Christ has already said in Matthew 5:17, he says, "Think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill." The law that he fulfilled was Deuteronomy 24, as well as the mentioning of the marriage and what you should do or not do as a virgin. But I'm going to go ahead and finish 5 and 8, 17 and 18. Verse 18 says, "For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law, till all be fulfilled." All be fulfilled means until you're doing all of them in this time and dispensation. And then we get into the kingdom. That's why he says he's going to put the laws in our hearts. But we have to practice them there through the trials and tribulations of doing it. Then it's easy in the kingdom. It's going to be second nature in the kingdom. We won't have to study and read no more if we're studying now. He's going to lock that in, and that's going to be our demeanor and our behavior. But I wanted to clear that up to you to let you know that I can go back to Deuteronomy, the 24th chapter, because Christ never changed the actual law. And I like reading from my phone. It's just a little clearer for these old eyes. So let's start with Deuteronomy, the 24th chapter, verse 1. "When a man has taken a wife and married her, and it come to pass that he finds no favor in his eyes, because he hath found some uncleanness in her, then let him write her a bill of divorce and give it in her hand and send her out of his house. And when she is departed, she may go out of his house, and she may go and be another man's wife." But here, let's read further. "And if the latter husband hates her, and write her a bill of divorce as well, and give it in her hand, send it her out of his house. Or if the latter husband die, which took her to be his wife, her former husband, which sent her away, may not take her again to be his wife after that she is defiled." For that means she's on the list of can't touch. "For that is an abomination before God," or before the Lord. "And thou shalt not cause the land to sin, which the Lord thy God giveth thee for an inheritance." So I wanted you to hear how to read that. I know people think, "Oh, well, he said he can go out and marry somebody else," but that's not the issue. The issue is, who else can give you the covenant to inherit the kingdom of heaven or rulership on the earth? Is there another man that can die someday that gonna do? No, sir, no, ma'am. That's what you have to tie in to understanding that law. If the second husband, after I gave you a certificate of divorce, you commit, and says that he either dies or he divorces you for the same reason, you can't go back to the one that gave you the 614, 13, 14 laws of the Torah and establish the Mosaic covenant. Nobody has that authority or power to do that, to make that happen. So that's where the problem came in. So his son had to come. He had to send his son because that's who he was going to trust. So what has basically happened is, even though God promised that he would not kill us off and would give an opportunity for us to come back and to wake us and put us in a servitude for over 400 years, Genesis 15 and 13, that's what that process was covering. So what he did was gave that authority of the covenant to judge, to say who's worthy and who's not, to Christ. And if Christ tells his father that so-and-so is worthy and so-and-so is not worthy, that's what Christ is going to, that's what the Most High is going to work on, what Christ said, because Christ is the one mediator, or the only mediator between God and us. There are no more house of Levi or the high priest there. No. So he's the only one, and that's what that is establishing in 2 Timothy. So let me go ahead and add that to the text. So let's go 1 Timothy 2 and 5. For there is one God and one mediator between God and men, the man Christ Jesus. God, Christ, man. 1 Corinthians 11 as well. And that's what I want you to get that picture while you're reading this. There is no other way for us to come back under the covenant after the divorce, 2 Kings 17 and verify Jeremiah 3, than for Christ. That's why he said, I ain't come to change no law. Y'all got to go back and do the exact same laws. And in Zechariah 13 and 8, it tells you 2 out of 3 are not going to do it. So where we are today as Israelites, since Christ has renewed the covenant, our job is to get 144,000 men, 12,000 men from each of the 12 different tribes to accept or to become sealed. And when that happens, that's when Christ is going to come back and finish and deal with the others who were walking the line. Being sealed means these men have the understanding of the covenant, or following and walking in to the best of the ability that they can or will, or to be deemed perfect in the eyes of the Most High. Once they are sealed, he know these dudes are straight. He's going to hide them in the wilderness. Pull them off. The wilderness just means wherever he wants to hide them. Don't worry about where that is, because you ain't with them, you ain't going to be over there. So he pulls them out, and then he lets these plagues take place on the earth. But what he's doing is changing over the rulership. We know who's ruling now. So in order to give it back to the children of Israel, it's going to take all of those horses that are in Revelations to fall through. So, but what I wanted you to do, and I want to go to Revelation 7 to seal up the 144,000. Let's start at verse 4. And I heard the number of them which were sealed, and there were sealed 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel. Of the tribe of Judah were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Reuben were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Gad were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Asher were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Naphtali were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Manasseh were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Simeon were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Levi were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Issachar were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Zebulun were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Joseph were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Benjamin were sealed 12,000. So what we're going to look at after this, I beheld, and lo, a great multitude, which no man could number, of all nations and kindreds of peoples and tongues, stood before the throne and before the Lamb, in cloth with white robes and palms in their hand, and cried out with a loud voice, saying, Salvation to our God, which sitteth upon the throne, and unto the Lamb. That's Revelation 7. Go in and pick some more out of that. But the point of it is, that is what was supposed to happen after the technically 400-year curse ended, and to a lot of the pundits, and I do believe there is a calendar clock. I do believe in 1619 to 2019. And after that, it doesn't mean that everything's just going to go peachy keen, because no, that was our timeout or our in school suspension period where we're supposed to be getting ourselves right and getting it together. So when we come out of the covenant, we're walking in the light that he wanted us to walk in. So once those men are verified and been tested by the Most High and they're sealed, no more testing for them. He knows who they are. The testing is going to be for those walking the line, and he's going to find out by putting you as close to death or killing you as possible to find out who you are serving. And that's what eventually all that stuff is going to add up to. So with that being the case, that's what the Israelites, the brothers, that's what we're supposed to be doing. And that's why Deuteronomy 23 and 7 is such a pivotal point. I know you want to get that lick back, but you're not going to be able to get that lick back. And you can't do it while we're teaching and getting everybody else together, because what you eventually end up doing is pushing off a lot of brothers who are going to look at those particular threats that come with that and pretty much say, I don't think I want to be a part of that. And our job is to get them under that. Don't worry about getting Edom right. That's not your job, because first of all, you never gave him the birthright of the promises. You didn't give it to him, so it ain't nothing he took from you. It was given to you. So let me stop there. I'm shaking the table. But my point is, you're going to have to let that go. And that's going to be the ultimate seal of you trying to reach the Most High, is being able to leave Edom alone until they are placed in the hands of those that deserve. And that's what the Most High will do. But you have to let that go and quit trying to be the one to lead the way to get the lick back on somebody that we caused to get over us. That's what you're not adding. The only reason they got in any authority is because we broke the covenant. And the Most High told you that in the curses. So if he told you that was going to happen, then what you mad with them back? What you need to do is go back and do it the way we're supposed to be doing it. Leviticus, the 26th chapter, 25th verse. And I will bring a sword upon you that shall avenge the quarrel of my covenant. And when ye are gathered together within your cities, I will send the pestilence among you, and ye shall be delivered into the hand of the enemy. That's the Most High talking. So you're going to have to stop with this talk. I know you want to get that lick back, but bruh, no. You're going to have to treat Deuteronomy 23 and 7 as a law. Get it out your mouth about us getting our backs busted open. Hell, I lost a family member to arrest, but so let's just get to the point. The point is that is a law, and I challenge any of my brothers to show anything that will prove otherwise. And do not bring Obadiah. Obadiah has no authority, and that's why I read to you 1 Timothy 2 and 5 that there's only one mediator, that nobody else has any authority to take away or change any laws other than the Most High and Christ. Keep that in mind. But I want you brothers to come back with that so we can expound and continue on with this particular point. But if it's a law, you're going to have to take them posters down, bro. You're going to have to take all that down and talk to the people only about the laws, and get our lost tribe brothers down in Central and South America. They're not finna get with us on that, man. They're not finna go to war that way. They're going to have to trust in the Most High that he's going to be the one to deliver them. And I'm going to also pick up on the that we have to take our punishment as men. Don't be no chump. And I want you to go ahead and read. And if that was the case, I want to read you what the Most High, what Christ, the only mediator, would have said. And that is what has to be established. Christ never told you to hate the Edomites. And a matter of fact, let's go Matthew 5 and 44. But I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you, that ye may be the children of your Father which is in heaven. For he maketh his sun to rise on the evil and on the good, and sendeth rain on the just and the unjust. We all get the same thing. So God ain't paying you to go to church. So quit saying that. What he's telling you is anybody can get blessed on this word. It doesn't mean you're going to receive the eternal blessing. Verse 46, for if you love them which love you, what reward have you? Do not even the publicans the same? And if you salute your brethren only. If you salute your brethren, who are our brethren, only, what do ye more than others? What you doing more than anybody else? Do not even the publicans, they love each other? Be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father, which is in heaven, is perfect. So I'm here to clearly put to you that was the opportunity for Christ to say, hey, don't mess with the Edomites. And I'm not telling you to love them. He told you, envy not your oppressors. He's telling you, yeah, see them, yo, what up, and keep it moving. He ain't telling you to go marry them. He ain't telling you you got to live with them. But he's also telling you how to behave through your oppressors. And what you're going to have to remember is that the reason we are in this particular position is because we broke the covenant. They never would have been over us. We never would have had a transatlantic slave trade had we not broken the covenant. Y'all got to add that. You can't skip over that. I want to. And what you're doing, you breaking the law, bro. And you break the least of them, and you trying to tell somebody to come. I don't care how many you got in your camp. You would have had 10 times that had you been doing what the Most High tell you. So we're just like our forefathers, trying to make the law do what we want them to do instead of following them to the T. He's making us not hate the Edomites and the Egyptians because of two things. And those were the two nations that had the most to do with us coming under the covenant. He's telling us that because he wants to see how humble. Is it worth more to you to get them back, or is it worth more to you to get to the Most High and you don't care what you got to go through to get to him? That's what it's doing. It's making you eat that and be humble. He said, man, I don't care about that. I know they did that, but I'm trying to get back to the Most High, or get to the Most High through Christ. Bro, it's a law. I challenge any of you brothers to prove that somebody broke that or said that is not a law. Thou shalt is what makes it a law. Thou shalt not covet. Thou shalt not commit murder. Thou shalt not have any other gods before me. Thou shalt not abhor an Edomite, for he is thy brother. That ain't changed. Thou shalt not abhor an Egyptian, for we were a stranger in this land. So we ain't got to hate them. And what's going to basically happen, I want to give all of you an opportunity to read. I want you to go read Psalm 78. I want you to read Psalms 89, verses 29 through 37. I want you to go read Proverbs chapter 3, 11 and 12, as well as 4 and 26. I want you to read Psalms 95, 7 through 1, Psalms 118, 6 through 7, Hebrews 3, 7 through 15, Hebrews 13 and 6, Hebrews 12, verses 5 and 6, and Hebrews 12, verses 13. What these are telling you, suck it up, man. The only reason you're getting this whooping is because you didn't do what you're supposed to do. And if that's the case, we got to eat that in order to get back. We are the greatest nation that this earth has ever had from a physical, mental standpoint, and it's been proved. I watched a documentary earlier about proving that the brain of our descendants are technically classified as having the highest capacity to be genius or to do the most things on this earth. So keep that in mind, brothers. But let's get to the bottom of it. Please leave any comments or any suggestions. I'm first time putting out a bunch of these videos, but I do understand what I'm getting at. But let's talk. But we need to get that straight, because Obadiah doesn't change the law. And Obadiah basically explained what was going to happen at the end when the Most High took what was given to Esau or Edom as rulership and putting it back into the hands of his chosen. That's why they're going to get taken out. We had nothing to do with the birthright because we didn't give it to them. So I want you to understand that. So let's talk and let's get it together. But again, I want to tell my brother shalom till the next lesson, and I look forward to reading your comments in the comment section. Shalom.